Right now, beneath the mountains of North Korea, thousands of centrifuges are spinning at supersonic speeds, transforming ordinary uranium into the most dangerous material on Earth. Deep underground, in facilities the world has never seen, a hermit kingdom has quietly assembled one of the planet's most sophisticated nuclear arsenals. This transformation didn't happen overnight, and it certainly didn't happen alone. What began as a desperate Soviet client state's attempt to defend itself has evolved into something far more terrifying. North Korea has not just built nuclear weapons, it has built an entire shadow economy around nuclear proliferation, becoming the world's most dangerous nuclear dealer. The story of how this happened involves stolen blueprints, radioactive betrayals, and a web of deception that spans decades. It's a tale of how the world's most isolated nation outsmarted every intelligence agency on the planet and why stopping them now might be impossible. In the ashes of the Korean War, something extraordinary was taking root in the North Korean mountains. While the world focused on rebuilding, Kim Il-sung was quietly planning something that would change everything. The year was 1956, and North Korea had just signed its first nuclear cooperation agreement with the Soviet Union. But this wasn't about peaceful energy. This was about survival in a world where nuclear weapons had become the ultimate insurance policy. The Soviets, still reeling from Stalin's death and eager to expand their influence, saw an opportunity. They would help North Korea build what appeared to be a peaceful nuclear research program. Soviet engineers began construction of what would become the heart of North Korea's nuclear empire, the Yongbyon Nuclear Scientific Research Center. Construction began in 1963 with an IRT-2000 research reactor that became operational in 1965. What seemed like scientific cooperation was actually the first step in creating a monster. But Kim Il-sung had bigger plans. In 1963, just as construction was beginning at Yongbyon, North Korea made a stunning request to the Soviet Union. Help us build nuclear weapons. The Soviets refused, as did the Chinese after their own nuclear tests. This rejection would prove to be one of the most consequential decisions in nuclear history, forcing North Korea to embark on a path of deception and self-reliance that continues today. By 1979, something had fundamentally changed at Yongbyon. North Korea began constructing a second research reactor, along with an ore processing plant and a fuel rod fabrication plant. These weren't the facilities of a peaceful nuclear program. They were the building blocks of a weapons program. The world was watching, but no one understood what they were really seeing. The 1980s marked the beginning of North Korea's most audacious nuclear deception. While publicly committing to nuclear non-proliferation by signing the NPT in 1985, Kim Il-sung was secretly accelerating his weapons program. But there was a problem. North Korea didn't have the advanced technology needed to build sophisticated nuclear weapons. They needed help, and they found it in the most unlikely place. What happened next reads like a spy thriller, but it was devastatingly real. Across the world in Pakistan, a metallurgical engineer named Abdul Qadir Khan was building his own nuclear empire. Khan had stolen centrifuge designs from European companies and was now the father of Pakistan's atomic bomb program. By the late 1980s, Khan had transformed from national hero to international nuclear dealer, and North Korea became one of his most important customers. The relationship between Pakistan and North Korea wasn't just about nuclear technology. It was a sophisticated barter system. Pakistan desperately needed missile technology to deliver its nuclear weapons, while North Korea needed centrifuge technology to enrich uranium. What followed was one of the most dangerous technology exchanges in human history. Pakistan provided North Korea with P-1 and P-2 centrifuge designs, along with technical blueprints and actual equipment. In return, North Korea shared its liquid-fueled missile technology, which Pakistan renamed the Gowri missile. The scale of this operation was staggering. These weren't small packages being smuggled in diplomatic pouches. Individual centrifuges weigh half a ton each. The logistics alone required high-level government complicity. When U.S. intelligence finally uncovered the network in 2003, they discovered that Khan's organization had been operating like a nuclear Walmart, supplying not just North Korea, but Iran, Libya, and others. While the world focused on the visible facilities at Yongbyon, something far more sinister was happening beneath North Korea's mountains. Deep underground, North Korean engineers were carving out a nuclear testing facility that would eventually shock the world. Construction of what North Korea calls the Northern Nuclear Testing Site at Punggye-ri began as early as 1985. This wasn't a last-minute decision. It was part of a comprehensive nuclear weapons program that had been decades in the planning. The first declassified images of Punggye-ri show excavation work beginning between 1985 and 1986. Why this remote location? The combination of geological stability and extreme isolation made it perfect for underground nuclear testing. By the time the world became aware of Punggye-ri's true purpose, North Korea had already been working on it for over 20 years. But Punggye-ri was just one piece of a much larger underground empire. At Yongbyon, North Korean engineers were building facilities that the outside world wouldn't see for decades. The radiochemical laboratory, a massive complex designed to separate plutonium from spent nuclear fuel, became operational in the 1980s. This 200-meter canyon where plutonium separation occurs was hidden inside a multi-story building that appeared innocent from the outside. The technical sophistication of these facilities was remarkable for a country that many considered a technological backwater. The 5-megawatt reactor at Yongbyon used 300 tons of graphite for moderation and was cooled by carbon dioxide in a primary cooling circuit. While based on 1950s British reactor designs, the fact that North Korea could construct and operate such a facility demonstrated capabilities that the world had seriously underestimated. While the world watched Yongbyon's plutonium production, North Korea was quietly building a parallel uranium enrichment program that would prove even more dangerous. The key to this program was the Pyeongsan uranium concentrate plant, located just 100 kilometers from Pyongyang. Since the mid-1990s, Pyeongsan has been North Korea's sole producer of yellowcake, the essential first step in creating weapons-grade uranium. The process begins at uranium mines scattered across North Korea. At Pyeongsan, North Korean workers extract uranium-bearing ore that contains about 1 kilogram of uranium per ton of ore. This ore is then processed into yellowcake, which provides the feedstock for uranium hexafluoride production. That UF6 then feeds the centrifuge plants where ordinary uranium is transformed into weapons-grade material. Recent satellite imagery reveals that Pyeongsan has been consistently upgraded and expanded. Between 2016 and 2018, significant growth was observed in mining spoil piles and waste accumulation, indicating ongoing mining and concentration activities. This facility represents a critical vulnerability in any denuclearization agreement. Without shutting down uranium production at its source, North Korea can continue expanding its nuclear arsenal indefinitely. What makes Pyeongsan particularly concerning is its location just 45 kilometers from the DMZ. This proximity to South Korea demonstrates North Korea's confidence in its defensive capabilities and suggests that the facility is considered too important to locate further from potential threats. The plant's continued operation, despite international sanctions and diplomatic pressure, shows that North Korea views uranium production as essential to its survival. In November 2010, the world got its first glimpse inside North Korea's uranium enrichment program when American scientists were allowed to visit a centrifuge facility at Yongbyon. What they saw was shocking. A modern, sophisticated centrifuge hall filled with hundreds of P2 equivalent centrifuges. But this was just the beginning of North Korea's centrifuge revolution. The images released by North Korean state media in September 2024 revealed something even more startling. Kim Jong-un was shown walking past rows of advanced centrifuges that were clearly more sophisticated than anything seen before. These weren't the P2 equivalents from 2010. They appeared to be North Korean designed and manufactured centrifuges using imported materials despite decades of sanctions. The technical details visible in these images tell a remarkable story of indigenous development. The centrifuges feature cooling coils wrapped around the motors, a sophisticated design feature that allows them to spin faster and more efficiently. Fast-acting valves on feed and product pipes provide protection against catastrophic failure. Most importantly, the scale was massive. Approximately 70 centrifuges visible in each row, with multiple rows suggesting a facility capable of producing significant quantities of weapons-grade uranium. This represents a fundamental shift in North Korea's nuclear program. While the original plutonium program relied heavily on foreign assistance and technology, the advanced centrifuge program appears to be largely indigenous. This makes it far more difficult to disrupt through sanctions or diplomatic pressure. North Korea has essentially created a self-sustaining nuclear weapons production capability. On October 9, 2006, the world's worst fears were confirmed. Deep beneath Mount Mantap in North Korea's remote northeast, a nuclear device exploded with the force of several hundred tons of TNT. The first North Korean nuclear test was relatively small, less than 1 kiloton, but it crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. North Korea had officially joined the Nuclear Weapons Club. What followed was a systematic campaign to demonstrate and improve North Korea's nuclear capabilities. The 2009 test showed significant improvement, with a yield estimated between 2 and 7 kilotons. Unlike the 2006 test, no radioactive gases were detected, making it impossible to determine whether the device used plutonium or highly enriched uranium. This ambiguity was likely intentional. North Korea wanted the world to know it had multiple paths to nuclear weapons. The testing campaign accelerated dramatically under Kim Jong-un. The 2013 test was followed by 2 tests in 2016 and a final test in 2017 that may have been a hydrogen bomb. Each test demonstrated not just improved explosive yield, but also miniaturization and sophistication that suggested North Korea was developing weapons suitable for delivery by missile. The Punggye-ri test site itself became a symbol of North Korean nuclear ambitions. Satellite imagery showed constant construction and excavation between tests, with multiple tunnel systems allowing for different types of nuclear experiments. The facility's apparent destruction in 2018 was initially seen as a positive step, but by 2021, construction had resumed. North Korea's commitment to nuclear testing appeared unshakable. The story of North Korea's nuclear program isn't just about one country's weapons development. It's about the creation of a global proliferation network that continues to threaten international security. The relationship with Pakistan's A.Q. Khan was just the beginning. North Korea learned not just how to build nuclear weapons, but how to profit from selling nuclear technology to others. The evidence of North Korea's role as a nuclear dealer is extensive and troubling. When the merchant vessel BBC China was intercepted in 2003, it was carrying nuclear centrifuges to Libya that had been manufactured by companies connected to Khan's network. But North Korean involvement in nuclear proliferation goes beyond just facilitating Khan's operations. They've become dealers in their own right. Syrian facilities bombed by Israel in 2007 showed clear North Korean design influences. The reactor under construction bore striking similarities to North Korean reactor designs, suggesting direct technical assistance. This pattern of proliferation represents perhaps the greatest long-term threat from North Korea's nuclear program. Not just the weapons they build for themselves, but the technology and expertise they sell to others. The economics of nuclear proliferation make this trade irresistible for North Korea. Isolated by sanctions and desperately needing foreign currency, nuclear technology represents one of the few valuable exports available. Each transaction not only provides immediate financial benefit, but also creates new nuclear states that further complicate international security. Today, North Korea possesses an estimated 50 nuclear weapons with the capability to produce up to 40 more. But raw numbers don't tell the full story of the threat North Korea now represents. The recent images of Kim Jong-un visiting uranium enrichment facilities show a program that has achieved self-sufficiency and continues to expand. The sophistication of North Korea's current capabilities would have been unimaginable just 2 decades ago. Their missiles can now reach anywhere in the continental United States. Their nuclear warheads have been miniaturized for missile delivery. Most concerning, their production facilities are increasingly hidden and hardened against military attack. The centrifuge facilities revealed in 2024 suggest North Korea has moved beyond simply copying foreign designs to developing indigenous nuclear technology. This represents a qualitative change in the threat. A North Korea that can innovate and improve its nuclear capabilities without external assistance is far more dangerous than one dependent on foreign technology and expertise. Perhaps most troubling is North Korea's clear signal that denuclearization is no longer negotiable. Kim Jong-un's recent statements make clear that nuclear weapons are now seen as essential to regime survival. The days when North Korea might trade away its nuclear program for economic incentives appear to be over. What does the future hold for North Korea's nuclear program? The trajectory is deeply troubling. Every indication suggests continued expansion and sophistication. The uranium enrichment facilities are being expanded. New reactor construction at Yongbyon suggests plutonium production will resume. Most concerning, North Korea appears to be developing tactical nuclear weapons designed for battlefield use rather than deterrence. The implications extend far beyond the Korean peninsula. If North Korea continues to develop and proliferate nuclear technology, other countries will likely follow suit. The careful architecture of nuclear non-proliferation that has prevented widespread nuclear weapons development for over half a century could collapse entirely. Yet the alternatives are equally grim. Military action against North Korea's nuclear facilities would almost certainly trigger a catastrophic war. Diplomatic solutions appear increasingly unlikely given North Korea's stated position that nuclear weapons are non-negotiable. Economic sanctions, while painful, have proven insufficient to halt nuclear development. The world may simply have to accept that North Korea will remain a nuclear power for the foreseeable future. The question then becomes how to manage and contain a nuclear North Korea rather than eliminate its weapons. This represents a fundamental failure of the non-proliferation regime, with consequences that will reverberate for generations. The story of North Korea's nuclear program is ultimately a story about the failure of the international community to prevent nuclear proliferation when it mattered most. From the initial Soviet assistance in the 1960s to the Pakistani technology transfer in the 1990s, key decisions by major powers enabled North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Today, North Korea stands as perhaps the most successful nuclear proliferator in history. Starting from almost nothing, they have built a sophisticated nuclear weapons program that now threatens global security. The lessons of this success will not be lost on other aspiring nuclear powers. The technical achievements are remarkable for a country many dismissed as technologically backward. From the early graphite reactors to the advanced centrifuge cascades, North Korea has demonstrated an ability to master complex nuclear technologies. More concerning, they have shown that even the most comprehensive sanctions regime in history cannot stop a determined proliferator. What North Korea has accomplished over 6 decades represents both a cautionary tale and a terrifying precedent. In an age of increasing international tensions and technological proliferation, the North Korean model of nuclear development may prove irresistibly attractive to other nations, seeking security through nuclear weapons. The genie is not just out of the bottle, it has learned to reproduce itself.